The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to put a question to the Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Public Safety. He referenced two vessels, the Sunsea and Ocean Lady. I'd like to take him back a little bit in time and reference two other ships that arrived in Canadian waters. Back in 1938, the S.S. St. Louis arrived with 937 European Jews on board in Canadian waters. Unfortunately, that ship was turned away. Those unfortunate Jews, were returned to Europe, and in the subsequent years, virtually all of them lost their lives in the Holocaust. There was a similar incident in 1914 with the Komagata Maru, 354 people on board. They returned back. Many of them lost their lives when they returned back to India. My question to the Parliamentary Secretary is, under this legislation, what sort of sanctions would the ship's captain and owners of the SS St. Louis face?
Honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to put a question to the honourable member. The legislation is so broadly drafted that it doesn't differentiate between those who would smuggle humans for humanitarian reasons and those that would do it for profit. Also, it doesn't differentiate between those who smuggle people and land them in Canada, and the individuals smuggled are determined to have been genuine refugees, and those that are strictly economic migrants. Would he not agree that there should be a different approach for these various categories between the people, and would the government be amenable to see amendments to the legislation that would differentiate between those who are involved with human smuggling of genuine refugees and those that are strictly just economic migrants? Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to the honourable member, he referenced Bill C-11, which passed the House here with the support of all parties, all members of Parliament. And he referenced it in an interesting way. We worked collectively on this, and we passed a bill that we all thought was pretty good. Were we 100% happy? Nobody was absolutely happy, but we thought it was good. And all of a sudden, this gets dropped on us out of the blue that seems to go back on that sort of consensual, collective way that we were able to arrive at results. And the result of this dropping a bill without any consultation with other parties are issues that were raised. You know, my goodness, Madam Speaker, have we ever allowed for the incarceration of children for 1 year in detention centres in Canada? You know, what are we thinking of doing here? And to separate families for 5 years, so people who are found to have been actual refugees, so they're determined to be refugees, we're not going to allow them to travel back to bring the rest of their families who also are in harm's way as refugees in camps, perhaps. We're not going to allow them to travel back to bring them to Canada. We're going to separate families for 5 years, and we're not all, even though they've been determined as refugees, we're not going to allow them landed status, so they can't bring those families. So that you'll have sometimes husbands, wives, children of determined refugees in harm's way. You know, my goodness, if the honourable member could tell us, has Canada ever treated some of the most vulnerable on the planet in this manner?